Okay, so welcome to the lead generation webinar. This has been created plainly just to give you a bit of context behind what lead generation is. It gets thrown about a hell of a lot in the fitness industry about generating leads and in businesses themselves, but the majority of personal trainers didn't come into this industry to be business people, good marketers, or anything like that. We haven't got that background. We've normally got a background of an interest in training and nutrition, and that's why we've turned, I suppose, a hobby into a career. So one of the biggest skill gaps that we need to fill is lead generation itself, and this webinar has just been literally created to give you a little bit of context behind it and to lead you in the right direction of how to set yourself up. There is an additional unit to this, additional webinar should I say, which is called lead generation processes, that actually goes through step by step how you would go about generating leads in different directions, online and offline and so on. But let's just delve into lead generation itself and give you a bit of context behind it. So I thought it'd be good to start by giving you a bit of a definition behind it, because as I said at the start, it's not something that we come into the industry with experience of. So lead generation is the action or process of identifying and cultivating potential customers for a business's products or services. As you go through your personal training career, you'll start to understand how important the business acumen side of it is, and you will also probably see that one of the weakest areas that most personal trainers have is marketing and lead generation. It's one of the biggest reasons why personal trainers will leave the fitness industry, and it comes back to our lack of experience in it, and then I suppose our warped kind of mindset towards it. Because if you've watched the member interaction webinar now, you'll start to understand how to shift your mindset with lead generation from selling to where it is now, probably a lead generation, you view it as a way to sell to people, and actually switching it in a sense of supporting and serving people on the gym floor. Now, lead generation in most businesses is to go out there and obviously data collect and bring in a volume of leads to then obviously sell a product or service to further down the line. Now, the way we see it and the way we deliver it on all of our courses and throughout the kind of the webinars and the portal itself is the fact that whilst you are lead generating to people, it's a huge opportunity for you to gather information about them. And that's gathering information about certain areas of their lifestyle, certain areas of their kind of nutrition and nutrition beliefs, their past with training experience, their likes and dislikes, their understanding and education. There's so much that you can kind of pull out from just generating leads. It's not just a case of gaining, I suppose, a name and an email or some contact details about someone, because in essence, generating leads comes down to creating that data collection of name, email, and so on. But it's so much more than that. If treated and created in a system that effectively pulls this information from people. So why do you need to constantly work on it? Essentially, you need to constantly work on it plainly for the fact that it's a weakness of most personal trainers. Now, if you had a weakness in your squat, if you had a weakness in your deadlift, you would absolutely spend time and hours working on them weaknesses and developing them over time. It's no different here from a social aspect in speaking to people you don't know. We're in a society these days that people spend, especially personal training demographics, spend a lot of time on their phone, which doesn't really help in essence of giving people better interpersonal skills and social skills. So we absolutely need to be relentless in practicing it. It's a skill that we need to get better at. So communicating with people, listening is a massive skill we need to get better at. I think as an industry as well, because we can go about, because we've come from this training background and we're passionate about it, we may have lost weight ourselves, we have corrected our nutrition, we've tried different approaches and we have different beliefs. There's that assumption sometimes that when we're speaking to people that we can solve all of their problems from our experience. And that's plainly because we don't listen well enough at points to know that everything that we need to deliver going forward and from within our business needs to be client-centered and not philosophy or trainer-centered. And this all comes from this understanding of lead generation and approaching people on the gym floor and supporting people, serving people, getting people to know, like, and trust you, like I've mentioned in the previous webinar, which was member interaction. Now, on the right hand side of the slide, it's got reactive versus proactive and personality traits at work. So in a sense, what I'm getting at here is we need to take control of our own lead generation. And that's you going out there and speaking to people and putting certain things in place that can prove that you can solve a problem and drive the value up in you. The reason why we need to be proactive with it is because when we are being reactive and waiting for people to come to us, not only is that not making us better at something that is absolutely essential that we need, which is them social skills, communication skills, and listening skills. Not only is it not making us better, it's not putting us in an uncomfortable environment so we won't grow in them certain things, but also taking people on reactively is letting them control when they train, how they pay, how frequent they come in. Their understanding of personal training is, like I've said previously, their perception of it and their understanding is a little bit warped. So we need to close that gap and understand them more. And with that, it can create real inconsistency within your business. And this is solely come off the back of you not taking lead generation into your own hands. So one of my biggest tips would be, and especially if you refer to the time management webinar on this, is to look inside your schedule and start to plan in lead generation times in the times that you want to fill. Now, when I say lead generation, that can be approaching someone for the first time or speaking to someone for the fifth or sixth time and booking them in, should I say, for a consultation. It encompasses it all, but the more proactive you are, the better habits you have, the better product you will be selling. And also off the back of it, you'll be able to understand people well enough to prescribe a relevant service to them instead of just guessing off the back of them coming up to you at the end of a class or because of the way you look and you booking them in for a consultation, converting them into your business when their value for you probably doesn't match the price or the frequency or length of term that they need. So that's the reasons behind why you need to carry on and be consistently working on it. It's absolutely not something that you can do once and then because you've had a bad experience with it, not come back to. That's like a client trying a diet once or a deficit once and be like, right, well, I haven't lost any weight this week, so I'm never doing it again. So putting it into them expectations, you have to really kind of be as consistent as possible with it, not only to get better at it, but for it to be very, very effective over time. One of the things that you should try and need to get your head around, and probably not at an early stage, if you're within the first 3 months or so, this might be a little bit overwhelming, but it's information that you absolutely need to know. Something that we talk passionate about on the foundation course and throughout the business coach and across the webinars is that having an understanding of a market that you're trying to attract. Now, you might come into the fitness industry wanting to train anyone and everyone. And in most cases, you may have the knowledge and education and experience to do that, but it doesn't mean you can get results for everyone. Plainly off the back of personality clashes, a lack of understanding of their situation, for example, and all other things. But so I thought I'd outline from a target marketing perspective, just to kind of put some thoughts into your mind and get some notes down as to what advantages it would have for you to narrow down your market to kind of 1 or 2, but specifically 1 if you can do over time. So fears why trainers don't know the market. They have a fear of failure. They believe they can cater for anyone, don't want to narrow down their potential clients, and they don't actively market efficiently. So personal trainers who a lot of the time believe that they shouldn't have a target market, believe that in essence they can get results for anyone and everyone, and it's a bit of a silly idea to narrow down your market when you can potentially have a captive audience of 5,000-6,000 members. What they don't understand is that your message and your approaches will be absolutely lost trying to attract all them different types of demographics. Gathering your kind of target market and starting to understand it to be able to act on it will probably come from experience, but that experience will come off the back of proactive lead generation so you can go out on the gym floor to understand people more. So essentially what I'm getting at here is if you can really work on in this initial phase of starting to really get down 1 or 2 demographics that you want to work with, and then when you go out on the gym floor and plan this lead generation time in, it's them that you're going up to, knowing the fact that you can have really purposeful conversations with them. Knowing your market will give you an understanding of attracting the people you want in the business and repelling the people that you don't. As I said before, you can't get results for everyone. And if you're a personal trainer sat here listening to this now and you believe you can, that'll come from experience into proving you wrong, in a sense of there will be, like I said, personality clashes. There'll be parts of you that doesn't understand their lifestyle, their situation. So there'll be parts of you that needs to dictate onto people, and that doesn't work with the majority of people. The biggest thing that target marketing and having an avatar will give you is it's going to give you time back, because it's going to let you understand where and when you can find people in the gym. So if you're trying to attract anyone and everyone, 9 times out of 10 you'll have really poor time management, because you're in the gym a hell of a lot. People have dictated times onto you. The days split up into 3 or 4 parts. You're probably working 6 or 7 days. You absolutely don't need any of that if you narrow down your market and then lead generating the times that you need to fill and that your market are in the building. So it'll save you time, but more so it'll be using your time effectively and putting it in the right places, basically. Knowing their frustrations and fears help them relate to you quickly. Showing that you can understand people and relate to people, and people can see and have the opportunity to see that they have the right level of ability to come into your business from the message you're putting across, either face-to-face or online. You also show that they have the right levels of motivation, and you have the right levels of motivation. And more importantly, the biggest thing is that you understand the triggers and the pain points of these people, because that's when you can really talk their language and drag them into your business, and it will really support you with the content that you deliver, all the way down to the prescription and service that you kind of support them with. It helps give direction on content, just kind of touched on that. You develop the solution to their problem, which brings a higher relatable value of your service. Now, on that, although you narrow down your market itself, actually what you'll find is as soon as you understand people enough to trigger them off their pain points, get consistent results for people, your market will really broaden from that, because you've narrowed it down so well. You become the authority and expert for that demographic, and it gives you feedback to develop your client process. So constantly throughout, you're just going to have more of an understanding of that type of demographic if you're working with them all the time, which makes everything easier, saves you time and so on. But again, we'll touch on this in further webinars, but that's just to give you a bit of a taster and understanding of where we're going here. So how and where to start? So my advice would be, especially if you're a new PT currently going through the business coach, is that you need to just practice speaking to everyone in the gym at first, and just to get you used to it. And I know it sounds contradicting off the back of what I've just said, but what you need to do really is just get to really comfortable with speaking to anyone and everyone, get used to it. You might be at a point where you're thinking, wow, I really don't know who my market is, and speaking to anyone and everyone and helping them and so on will help you define that over time. Step number 2 is start to narrow down that market off the back of them levels of conversation that you're going to provide a service for over time. And then once you've got that target market and that avatar and that understanding of who you want to work with, this 4-step process will be really, really key to driving lead generation into your business. Okay, so this is 4 steps, and it's actually backs up what we say in the foundation course, that once we put and take action off this, and once this evolves over time, when you go into the lead generation process, it's around about 5, 6, 7 points of interaction. And what you'll find is people are 80% more likely to buy a product or service if they've had 5 or more interactions with it. So on the 3rd point here, you have to create awareness or attention on you as a person or your business, whilst being relentlessly curious, trying to understand them. Then create interest, point 4, in you and how you can solve their problem. So there's a higher relatable kind of value to your service. Then an opportunity to create desire in what you do from consistent support that you give. And then the biggest, most important one is to take action in showing that you can provide the solutions to that market. So then that might be, for example, them taking action on a low barrier of entry into your business, like a program, maybe you charge for a seminar, a workshop, and so on. But we'll get into that a little bit further in the lead generation processes webinar. So make sure that you watch that, because all of this will then come to life and you'll start to understand it a little bit more. That's a brief webinar on lead generation to give you a little bit more context and understanding. Hopefully that helps, but let's go on to kind of structuring that now in the processes webinar.